Hello to any returning viewers and a warm welcome to any new viewers joining this channel. This is Friday story time, so happy Friday for those of you watching it on the day of the release. My name is Tanya, I'm 52 years old and I live on the east coast of Scotland. And this Friday video vlog is me recounting my past history and sharing some stories and hopefully bringing some light relief and entertainment ahead of the weekend. So those of you that want to stick around, please feel free to stay, and if you've got any kind of feedback, any kind of comments, happy to receive them in the comments below. But it's just going to be free flow Tanya recounting what has happened in the past. For those of you that watched the 30-day challenge, there might be some repetition, but because I'm going to go into a little bit more of the storytelling, I'll delve in a level deeper than what I've originally provided an overview previously. So, my background is my dad is Greek and my mum is half Scottish and half Polish. My parents met down in London and that's where I was conceived and born, and after 6 months living in London we went over to Greece so I could be baptised in the Greek Orthodox faith because my father wanted any children that my mum and him had to be brought up in that faith. My mum is Catholic and she didn't have a strong preference, so that's how it all worked out. So we went over when I was 6 months old. I was not one of those super aware children, so I can't tell you anything that happened back then when I was 6 months old. But that was my first visit to Greece. Now, my grandfather, my dad's dad, had passed away 6 months before I was actually born, which meant my grandmother, because of the tradition in Greece, she was a widow and she was in mourning, so she wore head to toe in black. And my dad's sister, who was living still in the family home, she was also dressed head to toe in black. Now, the reason why I'm sort of making the reference to what they were actually wearing is because when I was 5 years old, my parents decided that rather than me starting school in the UK, we were all going to move over to Greece, which we did just a month after my 5th birthday because I was due to start school in August, and that way we went over to Greece and I would start my schooling in Greece. Now in Greece you don't start school at 5, you start school at 6, so I had a year where I stayed in the village learning the language and getting to converse and have a lot of fun. So this video vlog and probably next week's one is probably going to recount a little bit of those kind of fun stories that happened between the ages of 5 and 6. So when we drove over to Greece, so I had my first car journey experience, which I absolutely loved. And when we arrived in Greece, it was late in the evening, and my grandmother and my aunt, both dressed head to toe in black, were screaming and shouting because they were so overjoyed to finally get to meet me again after 4.5 years and to finally meet my younger sister that they hadn't met in person because she was born prior to us going over to Greece, and that's before. For those of you that are in my kind of sort of age group in your 50s, you know what I'm talking about, but for any younger viewers that may be watching, that was before Skype and Zoom and mobile phones and being able to sort of like share and communicate. It was all over a landline and it was photos that you may have sent in the post. So this was like such an exciting time for them to finally get to meet us. For me personally, it was scary because these two visions in black, screaming and shouting in a language I didn't understand, was a bit scary. But that's the feeling of scariness, I was able to sort of reframe it and change it into an exciting adventure that sort of awaited me for the next 12 months that I actually lived in the village. So for the first few days, so the first couple of days, getting used to being in the village and hearing this language that just didn't make any kind of sense whatsoever. It was quite entertaining from my perspective. There was probably about 5 or 6 young children the same age as me, plus a number of cousins and relatives that were younger and older. So all of a sudden, we were the star attraction in the village. These people from the UK that were arriving in the village, which we were that novelty. And of course, everyone was sort of like, in Greece, the cultural kind of nosiness and curiosity and gossip was all sort of like firing on full cylinders. So for the preceding kind of 2 days after we've arrived, it was almost like we had an entourage, everyone following every movement that we were making as we were sort of like playing in the village or going and visiting relatives or relatives coming to visit us. So me not speaking a word of Greek, I was just full-blown Scottish, talking away, granny, auntie, mummy, daddy, all those kind of words. And the kids were actually mimicking me. And they were repeating all those words. So for 2 days, it was almost like you had a kind of group of young children following you around, repeating every word that you were saying. So then they were starting to talk English, which was funny and entertaining from an adult kind of perspective. But after a couple of days, that enthusiasm and curiosity started to die down. They weren't wanting to start conversing in a language that they didn't know and understand, and instead they just kept on speaking Greek, and then it was me that started repeating after them and learning to speak Greek as a result. So within a space of a month, I was actually able to converse fairly fluently for the vocabulary that I had at 5 in Greek, and also be able to converse in English. So I was able to sort of do the kind of translation either way. And my uncle, my mum's younger brother, who was a joiner by trade, he was doing some backpacking, and he eventually came to the village to meet us and to also help out by building some furniture for my parents, who had rented a property in Thessaloniki, which is the kind of second largest city in Greece, and that's where they were going to be staying. So the village is located in Halkidiki, but it's not near the sea or anything, so we're a wee bit probably in the mid-centre of Halkidiki. So my uncle arrived. He couldn't speak very few words of Greek, because he probably could say "Mia bira palakalo," which is "one beer please," and other than that, his English, his Greek was non-existent. So in order for him to be able to build the furniture, the local wood mill that had a workshop, they were very kind, and this is the Greek hospitality and everyone wanting to help everyone. They sort of said, you can work from here, you can use the tools, you just need to buy the material, and you can build the furniture. So what is 5-year-old Tanya going to do? She's wanting to spend some time with her uncle and at the same time help out where she could. So people pleaser Tanya was in full swing at that age. And this is where I was there, and I was making the translation between the Greek speaking workers in the workshop and my uncle. And that is something that then I continue to do over the coming years. But in that preceding year, what had happened was there was a Canadian cyclist that was on tour in Greece, and he got lost one evening and he ended up in our village, because as I said, it's not near the sea, so it's probably in the crossroads between getting to different kind of locations. So this person arrived and he couldn't speak any Greek other than hello and goodbye, and I don't speak Greek. But he was able to say, I speak English. To which point the relatives in the village straight away, oh, Tanya, we've got Tanya here. So they came and they woke me up, and with coercing me that as a reward for me getting up and helping with the translation for this lost tourist, I was getting to wear my aunt's really long black thigh length boots the next day. I was going to be able to wear them. Now, considering that I was 5 years old, I was wearing shoes that were like 10 sizes probably too big for me, but I wanted to wear the high heel boots the next day. So I had my little reward for actually doing the translation. So they brought me to the taverna where the tourist was, and I was able to translate, and he was in absolute awe that all of a sudden, when they had been shouting, oh, we need to go and get Tanya, he was thinking they're going to go and get an elder to come and sort of help them with the translation, not expecting to get a 5-year-old appearing. So we had a good little laugh that evening, and they showed him the full kind of Greek hospitality by giving him food, giving him a place to stay that night, and then set him off the following day with the correct directions on where he was actually heading to. So this is where in the kind of village life, it was very kind of carefree and easygoing, but the curiosity and the adventure and the opportunity was sort of sparked in me. I loved the road trip, getting to Greece. I loved the freedom of being able to go anywhere in the village because there was always someone that was older about, and it felt safe and secure that we would actually be able to sort of like go and visit other relatives and cousins and friends, and everything is just in such close proximity. And back then there weren't that many cars, and if there were the occasional kind of tractor or a truck, you knew to sort of like go to the side of the road, so it was very kind of safe and secure. And then as I was getting more comfortable with the language, I went to preschool, which was kindergarten, and there I was sort of like, I learned to read and write in Greek. So then before I started school, I had the kind of basic skills, just like everyone else. And during that year that I lived in the village, I had a really a wonderful aunt who was willing to sort of like indulge me when I was like, oh, we need to go on a mini adventure up the hill or down the hill, and we need to go and see the animals, the goats and the donkeys, and we need to go and feed them, and we need to go and have fun adventures, and then we would do little backpacks, we would do little packed lunches, and we would sort of like head up to the hill, or we would head down to, there was a river that passed at the bottom of the village, and there was a lot of water down there, so we could go and cool down if it was a warm day. So we got to do lots of little mini adventures, and that created that sense in me that this is an opportunity to learn, experience and see things that I had never experienced and seen before, because obviously up until the age of 5 growing up in Scotland, because there's so much traffic and road and people, you were never really allowed to sort of like just roam around on your own. Fair enough in your back garden, but not just walking around freely within a kind of neighbourhood location. So it was actually so liberating and freeing, and for me that was part of the adventure of exploring new cultures, new ways of doing it, and getting to meet my cousins and experience life from their kind of point of view as well. So getting that multicultural sense that life is not the same for everyone. It's our perception of how it's happening, and it's just taking the joy in every day that sort of comes along. So that's probably the kind of key lesson in this, is that when you are between, like when they sort of like make reference to between the ages of 7, from the moment that you're born until the age of 7, our brain is like a sponge. It is just absorbing information, learning fast, and just constantly wanting to improve, learn and grow and experience life, and it's all its ups and downs. And immersing yourself in a language, immersing yourself in a culture, immersing yourself in a new way of thinking. So change, self-development, transformation, all of that. When you immerse yourself, you create the best opportunity and chance for all these new ways of thinking, these new words that you're experiencing, these new experiences that you're getting to live through if you are in a different culture. And you learn fast and you make mistakes, you iterate, you evolve, you learn, you grow, and that makes the whole experience so much more enriching and fulfilling as a result. So I just wanted to leave you with those two things, that we're little sponges when we're up to the age of 7, and that's why we want to people please, we want to belong, we want to feel loved, connected. And then this is where you can learn good habits of behaviour and thoughts and beliefs, and in certain instances you can actually take them on board and create a negative association in some instances. And I'm not painting in any kind of way that at the age of 5, me staying in the village for that first year, that for me everything was positive. This first story is the kind of positive outlook and everything that happened really, really well. Next week I'll sort of recall some other stories that happened and some beliefs that were actually formed at that age that weren't necessarily very productive or helpful for me in the long term. For that time when they were actually formed, they proved useful. So I think I'm going to wrap it up here. This is story part 1 of Tanya being in Greece and living in the village, and the fun that I had. So any kind of cousins that may be watching this video at the moment, if you can remember any kind of fun stories, feel free to put it down in the comments and share. I look forward to seeing you next week on next week's Friday video diary. So until then, go out and seize the day. Have the most amazing day. And always remember, you've got choices in life, so choose wisely. Until the next one, bye.